The alarm screamed through the ship. Red lights flashed in every corner. Jake Morrison grabbed onto the wall as the floor tilted under his feet. The diplomatic vessel shook like a toy in an angry child's hand. "All personnel to escape pods." Commander Lisa Park's voice crackled over the speakers. "We're going down." Jake ran down the corridor. His boots hit the metal floor hard with each step. He had been a soldier for 6 years, but nothing prepared him for a crash landing on an alien world. The ship groaned around him. Metal twisted and bent. Something exploded near the engine room. He reached the escape pod bay. Half the pods were already gone. The remaining crew members pushed past each other in panic. Jake helped an engineer into a pod and sealed the door. Another violent shake threw him against the wall. His head hit hard. Stars burst in his vision. When he looked up, the last pod was launching. The bay doors were closing. He was alone. No, no, no. Jake sprinted toward the emergency hatch. The ship was falling fast now. He could feel it in his stomach. Through the small window, he saw green and purple. A planet. They were entering atmosphere. Jake strapped himself into the emergency seat near the hatch. He pulled the harness tight across his chest. His hands shook, but he forced them steady. The ship screamed as it hit air. Fire licked at the windows. The heat made sweat pour down his face. Then impact. The world became noise and pain and darkness. Jake woke to silence. His head throbbed. Blood ran down his face from a cut above his eye. He touched it and winced. Everything hurt, but nothing felt broken. Lucky. He released the harness and stood slowly. The emergency hatch had blown open during the crash. Sunlight poured through it. Real sunlight, not the artificial light of the ship. Jake grabbed his rifle from the floor and checked it. Still working? He took a deep breath and stepped outside. The garden took his breath away. Flowers taller than him swayed in a gentle breeze. They glowed with soft light, colors he had no names for. Trees with silver bark reached toward a purple sky. 3 moons hung visible even in daylight. Crystal paths wound between plants that seemed to hum with energy. This wasn't just any garden. The perfectly trimmed hedges, the ornate fountains, the marble statues of alien figures, this was royal property. Jake's stomach dropped. He had crashed in the worst possible place. He needed to find his crew. Jake activated his communicator. Static. He tried again. Nothing. The crash had damaged it, or something on this planet was blocking the signal. He was on his own. Jake started walking. He followed a crystal path, hoping it would lead to people who could help. Or arrest him. Probably arrest him. Humans were new to the galactic community. Most aliens didn't trust them. Crash landing in what looked like a palace garden wouldn't help relations. The path led him deeper into the garden. The plants grew denser. Some had thorns that glittered like diamonds. Others released sweet scents that made his head swim. He pushed through carefully, his rifle ready but pointed down. He didn't want to seem aggressive. Then he heard singing. The voice was beautiful, unlike anything Jake had ever heard. It reminded him of wind chimes and flowing water mixed together. He followed the sound around a bend in the path. The garden opened into a clearing. A woman knelt beside a reflecting pool. At least Jake thought she was a woman. Her skin was pale blue, and she had 4 arms instead of 2. Her hair floated around her head like she was underwater, moving on its own. It was silver and purple and seemed to shimmer with starlight. She wore robes of white fabric that pooled around her on the ground. On her head sat a crown of what looked like frozen light. Jake stopped breathing. This was no servant or guard. This was someone important. Very important. The woman stopped singing. Her head turned toward him. Her eyes were large and entirely gold, with no white or pupil. They widened when they saw him. She stood in one fluid motion, all 4 arms moving to defensive positions. "Stay back," she said in a language Jake didn't understand. But the universal translator implant in his ear began working. The words shifted and changed until they made sense. "Who are you? How did you enter my sanctuary?" Jake raised his hand slowly, letting the rifle hang from its strap. "I don't want trouble. My ship crashed. I'm lost." The woman tilted her head. She studied him like he was a strange insect. You are human. Yes, ma'am. You should not be here. These gardens are forbidden to outsiders. The penalty for trespass is death. Jake's heart hammered. I didn't mean to trespass. It was an accident. Please, I just need help finding my crew. The woman took a step closer. She moved with grace that seemed impossible. Her golden eyes swept over him, taking in his torn uniform, the blood on his face, the rifle. You are armed. You invade my private sanctuary with a weapon. Give me one reason not to call my guards. Because I'm asking nicely? Jake tried a small smile. It probably looked more scared than friendly. Something flickered in those golden eyes. Amusement? Curiosity. The woman's forearms relaxed slightly. You do not bow. You do not avert your eyes. You do not tremble. Are all humans so fearless? Or foolish? Probably foolish, ma'am. She laughed. The sound was like bells. I am Princess Lyria of House Velthra, Crown Princess of the Zephyrian Empire. You stand in my personal meditation sanctuary? And you are? Lieutenant Jake Morrison, Earth Alliance Defense Force. He lowered his hands a little. I'm sorry for disturbing your meditation, Your Highness. I'll leave if you point me toward the exit. Too late for that. Lyria walked around him in a circle, examining him from all angles. The sensors have already detected your presence? My guards are coming. They will not be as patient as I am. As if summoned by her words, voices shouted in the distance. Heavy footsteps pounded on the crystal paths. At least a dozen guards burst into the clearing. They wore armor that looked like it was made from beetle shells, all glossy black and purple. They carried weapons that hummed with energy. All of them pointed at Jake. Jake didn't move. Didn't reach for his rifle. Didn't even breathe too hard. One wrong move and they would cut him down. Stand away from the princess, alien, the lead guard commanded. He was taller than the others, with scars across his blue face. On your knees. Wait, Lyria held up one hand. Just one hand, but all the guards froze. This human crashed in the gardens. He is injured and lost. He has made no threatening moves. He is armed, Your Highness, the scarred guard said. Protocol demands, I know protocol, Chancellor Vorath. Lyria's voice turned cold. I also know mercy. Take him into custody, but gently. He is my prisoner. I will question him personally. The guards surrounded Jake. They pulled the rifle from his shoulder and searched him for other weapons. They found his knife and his communicator. Then they bound his wrists with something that glowed and felt warm against his skin. Energy cuffs. Jake met Lyria's eyes as they led him away. She watched him with an expression he couldn't read. Curiosity, interest, or just the look of someone studying a problem to solve. He didn't know, but something told him his life had just changed forever. The garden blurred as they marched him toward the palace. Jake caught glimpses of towers that reached toward the sky, of walls that seemed to be made of crystal and light. The home of a princess. And now his prison. Behind him, he heard Lyria speak softly. Interesting. Very interesting. Jake smiled despite everything. Interesting was better than dead. For now, that was enough. The cell was nicer than Jake expected. Not really a cell at all. More like a guest room with locked doors and guards outside. The bed was soft, though shaped for someone with a different body than his. The walls glowed with gentle light. Through the window, he could see the city below, all spires and floating platforms. He had been here for 3 days. Each day, Princess Lyria came to question him. She arrived exactly at morning, when the largest moon was high in the purple sky. The doors opened without sound. Lyria entered alone, her forearms carrying different things. A device that recorded their conversations. A tray of food. Books with symbols he couldn't read. Papers covered in writing. Good morning, Lieutenant Morrison, she said, setting the tray on a low table. Good morning, Your Highness. Jake had learned to greet her properly. It seemed important to her. I have brought you breakfast. Your crew informed my people of human dietary needs. This should be safe for you to eat. Jake looked at the food. Some kind of grain porridge? Purple fruit. Bread that smelled like cinnamon. His stomach growled. The food they gave him was strange, but good. Thank you. Have you heard from my crew? Are they all right? Commander Park sends her regards. She asks about you daily. Lyria settled onto a cushion across from him. Her robe spread around her like water. She is quite insistent that you be released. I explained that you trespassed on royal grounds. She understood, though she was not happy. That sounds like Commander Park. Jake bit into the bread. It tasted sweet and warm. What about the ship? Can it be repaired? Your engineers are working with mine. They say it will take several weeks. Lyria's golden eyes watched him carefully, which gives us time to continue our discussions. These weren't really interrogations. Jake had figured that out on the first day. Lyria asked questions about Earth, about humans, about everything. She seemed hungry for knowledge, and lonely, though she would never say so. What would you like to know today? Jake asked. Tell me about human war. Jake nearly choked on his bread. War? That's a cheerful topic. My advisors say humans are dangerous, aggressive. They say your species has fought more wars than any other in the galaxy. They use this as a reason to deny your people membership in the Galactic Council. Lyria leaned forward slightly. I wish to understand. Why do humans fight so much? Jake set down his food. How did he explain this? We fight because we care. I know that sounds backwards. But humans fight for things that matter to us. Freedom, family, justice. We fight when we see wrong and can't turn away. Other species see wrong. They do not always fight. Maybe they're smarter than us. Jake smiled sadly. Or maybe they're willing to accept things humans can't accept. We're stubborn. When someone tells us we can't do something or that we don't deserve something, we push back hard. Is that why you didn't bow when you first saw me? Lyria's voice was curious, not angry. Because humans don't accept hierarchy? We accept hierarchy when it's earned. When it's chosen? Jake met her eyes. But we don't bow just because someone was born royal. No offense, Your Highness. None taken. I find it refreshing. Lyria stood and walked to the window. I was born to rule. I did not choose it. I cannot refuse it. Every decision has been made for me since birth. What I eat. What I wear. Who I will marry. Jake heard something in her voice. Sadness? Frustration? You're engaged? I will be, soon, to Prince Kelvin of the Sarthian Dominion. Our marriage will unite two empires and prevent war. It is my duty, she said duty like it was a heavy weight. Do you love him? Lyria turned, surprise clear on her face. Love? What does love have to do with royal marriage? It is politics, strategy, survival. On Earth, people marry for love. At least we try to. Jake stood and moved closer to the window, though he stayed a respectful distance away. Life is short? Too short to spend it with someone you don't choose. Your lives are short. Mine will last 300 years if I am lucky. Lyria's 4 hands moved in a complex gesture he was learning meant deep thought. I have 144 years left, perhaps. All of them planned. All of them predetermined. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to make just one choice for myself. They stood in silence for a moment. Below, the city moved and breathed. Flying vehicles zipped between buildings. Aliens of a dozen different species walked the streets. Your Highness, may I ask you something? Jake said carefully, You may. Why do you come here alone? You're royalty. You should have guards, attendants. But you come to question me by yourself. Lyria smiled, and it transformed her face. She looked younger, happier. Because with guards and attendants I cannot speak freely. They report everything to Chancellor Vorath. He decides what I should know, what I should see, what I should think. But here with you I can just talk? Is that strange? No, I get it. Sometimes the loneliest place is a crowded room. Yes, exactly, yes. Lyria moved back to her cushion. Now, teach me more about humans. Tell me about human art. So Jake told her. He told her about paintings and music and sculpture. He told her about Shakespeare and hip-hop and movies that made people cry. He told her about how humans created beauty even in the darkest times. Maybe especially in the darkest times, Lyria listened like every word was precious. She asked questions that showed how much she understood. The morning turned to afternoon. Neither of them noticed. A knock on the door broke the spell. Chancellor Vorath entered without waiting for permission. He was the scarred guard from the garden, though now Jake knew he was much more than a guard. He was Lyria's chief advisor and protector. Princess, you have been here for 6 hours. You have other duties. Have I really? Lyria stood reluctantly. Time moves strangely in good conversation. Vorath's eyes narrowed as he looked at Jake. This human is a prisoner, Your Highness. Not a companion. He is my prisoner. I will decide how to treat him. Lyria's voice turned royal again, commanding. But she glanced back at Jake with something soft in her eyes. Until tomorrow, Lieutenant Morrison. Until tomorrow, Your Highness. After they left, Jake sat on his bed and thought about the princess with 4 arms and golden eyes, who was trapped in a life she never chose. He thought about how she smiled when he talked about Earth's oceans, even though she had never seen an ocean. He thought about how lonely someone could be even when surrounded by people who served them. He was starting to understand something. Lyria didn't just want to learn about humans. She wanted to understand freedom, choice, life lived on your own terms, and that was dangerous. For both of them, the next day, Lyria came again. And the day after. Their conversations grew deeper, more personal. Jake told her about growing up in Chicago, about joining the military to see the stars, about the first time he left Earth and realized how big the universe really was. Lyria told him about her childhood in the palace, about lessons in statcraft and combat and languages, about how she had 17 tutors before she was 10 years old, about how she had never walked through her own city without guards, about how she had never tasted food from a street vendor or danced at a festival or done any of the things common people did. That's not living, Jake said. That's existing. For you, perhaps? For me, it is duty. Duty doesn't have to mean prison. Lyria looked at him for a long moment. You make it sound so simple, but you don't understand the weight of an empire. The millions of lives that depend on my choices. I understand duty. I'm a soldier. I follow orders. But there's a difference between duty and sacrifice. You can serve your people without sacrificing. Everything that makes you who you are, can I, Lyria's voice was barely a whisper. I don't even know who I am without the crown. Jake wanted to tell her that maybe it was time to find out. But before he could, alarms blared through the palace. Everett burst through the door, his weapon drawn. Your Highness, we have a situation. There's been an attack on the East Wing, explosives, multiple casualties. Lyria's face hardened instantly. The soft woman disappeared, replaced by a warrior princess. Who unknown? But they targeted the human delegation quarters. Jake's blood went cold. My crew, we don't know yet. Your Highness, you must come to the safe room. Now wait, Lyria turned to Jake. If your people are in danger, you should help. You know them. You know how humans think he is a prisoner? Vorath's voice was sharp. He is a soldier. And right now, we need soldiers. Lyria held out one hand. Lieutenant Morrison, will you help us protect your crew? Jake didn't hesitate. Yes, Your Highness. Vorath looked like he wanted to argue, but Lyria's expression stopped him. He removed Jake's energy cuffs. If you betray this trust, I won't. He ran through the palace corridors. Smoke filled the air. People screamed and rushed in all directions. Jake's military training kicked in. He assessed exits, counted hostiles, looked for patterns. This way. He led them down a side corridor. If I wanted to escape after an attack, I'd use the service passages. How do you know about those? Vorath demanded. I've been studying the palace layout from my window. Habit. Jake stopped at a junction there. Hear that footsteps. Running, Jake moved forward cautiously. Around the corner, 3 figures in black clothing were fleeing. They carried weapons and wore masks. Vorath raised his weapon. One of the figures turned and fired. Energy bolts scorched the wall. Jake tackled Lyria to the ground, covering her body with his. More bolts flew over. The news came 3 days after the attack. Jake stood in the palace council chamber with Commander Park and other human delegates. Around them, representatives from dozens of alien species watched from their seats. The chamber was massive, with a domed ceiling that showed the stars above. The Galactic Council speaker raised his 6 arms for silence. He was a Vatharian, tall and thin like a praying mantis. His voice echoed through the chamber. The Council has reached a decision. Humanity's petition for full membership is denied. Jake felt his stomach drop. Beside him, Commander Park's jaw tightened. They had expected this, but hearing it still hurt. The human species has demonstrated concerning levels of aggression throughout its history. Until Earth can prove it has evolved beyond its violent nature, full membership will not be granted. Humanity may remain as observers only. This is unfair. Commander Park stepped forward. We came here in peace. We followed every protocol. We've offered our knowledge, our resources, and you brought violence to our doorstep. Another council member interrupted. A Krillian with skin like rough stone. Since your arrival, there have been 3 attacks. All targeting humans or those who support you? We're not the ones attacking. Jake couldn't stay quiet. We're the victims here. Yet violence follows you. The Krillian's eyes were cold. Perhaps you attract it. Perhaps you cause it. Either way, the council cannot risk the safety of its members. The gavel fell. The decision was final. Jake watched as the council dismissed them. He felt anger burn in his chest, but also something else. Shame. Maybe they were right. Maybe humans brought chaos wherever they went. Outside the chamber, Lyria waited. She had attended the vote but couldn't speak on humanity's behalf. Politics forbade it. But her golden eyes showed her disappointment. I'm sorry, Commander Park, Lieutenant Morrison. I argued for you behind closed doors. Many of us did. But fear won today. Fear always wins with these people, Commander Park said bitterly. We'll file an appeal. We won't give up. I know you won't. That's what makes humans special. Lyria's 4 hands moved in a gesture of respect. Your determination is admirable. After Commander Park left, Lyria touched Jake's arm gently. Walk with me. They moved through the palace gardens. Not the private sanctuary where they first met, but the public ones. Guards followed at a distance. The afternoon sun painted everything purple and gold. Are you all right? Lyria asked softly. I don't know. Jake stared at a fountain shaped like a spiral. Maybe they're right about us. Maybe we are too violent. Too primitive. Don't say that. Lyria stopped walking and turned to face him. I have studied human history these past weeks. Yes, you fight. Yes, you have wars. But you also have incredible compassion. You rebuild after disaster. You help strangers. You never give up hope. These things matter more than your capacity for violence. Try telling that to the council? I would if they would listen. But they're afraid. Fear makes people stupid. Even very intelligent people. Lyria looked toward the sky. Speaking of fear, I have news. Prince Kelvin arrives tomorrow. Jake's heart sank further. Your fiancé, my future husband. Lyria said it without emotion. The formal betrothal ceremony is in 4 days. After that, we will be officially bound. The wedding will follow in 3 months. How do you feel about that? Lyria was quiet for a long moment. I feel like a bird in a cage watching other birds fly. I know what I should feel, duty, pride, honor, but instead I feel ... empty. Is that wrong? No, it's human. Jake smiled sadly at his own joke. I mean, it's normal. You can't help how you feel, can't I? Lyria's voice turned sharp. I am a princess. I should be able to control my feelings. But lately I find them harder to manage. Especially when I'm with you. Jake's breath caught. Lyria, Your Highness. Chancellor Vorath appeared from behind a hedge. His timing was too perfect to be coincidence. He had been listening. Prince Kelvin's ship has arrived early. He wishes to meet you immediately. Lyria's expression became neutral. The mask of royalty slipped back into place. Of course. I will go to him. She looked back at Jake once. Something in her eyes made his chest ache. Then she was gone, walking toward the palace with Vorath beside her. Jake heard them talking. Your Highness, I must speak plainly. Your friendship with the human is inappropriate. People are beginning to talk. Let them talk. Lieutenant Morrison is a friend? Nothing more, is he? Because from where I stand you spend every free moment with him. You defend him to the council. You risked your life to save his crew. This is not friendship. This is... Their voices faded as they entered the palace. Jake stood alone in the garden, his hands clenched into fists. Vorath was right. What Jake felt for Lyria went beyond friendship. Way beyond. And from the way she looked at him, she felt something too, but it didn't matter. She was a princess engaged to a prince. He was a soldier from a species the galaxy didn't trust. Nothing could happen between them. Nothing should happen. The next morning, Jake met Prince Kelvin at a diplomatic breakfast. Commander Park had insisted Jake attend as part of the human delegation. He wished he had refused. Kelvin was impressive to look at. Tall and broad, with deep purple skin and silver hair. He wore robes of crimson and black. His eyes were the same gold as Lyria's, but cold where hers were warm. He carried himself like he owned the universe. So you are the humans. Kelvin looked at them the way someone might look at insects. How quaint. Playing at civilization. We're trying, Commander Park said politely, though Jake heard the edge in her voice. Of course you are. Like children trying to sit at the adult table. Kelvin laughed. The council was wise to reject you. Your kind would only cause problems. Jake bit his tongue. Getting angry would prove Kelvin right. But every word out of the prince's mouth made him want to punch that smug face. Lyria entered the room, and everything changed. She looked beautiful in formal robes of white and silver. Her crown caught the light, but her smile seemed forced. Prince Kelvin. Welcome to Zalara Prime, my dear Lyria. Kelvin took two of her hands in his. The gesture seemed possessive, not affectionate. You look radiant, though perhaps a bit thin. We must fatten you up once we are wed. I prefer my wives with more meat on their bones. Jake saw Lyria's shoulders tense, though her smile never wavered. How thoughtful of you to be concerned. Throughout breakfast, Kelvin dominated the conversation. He talked about his empire's military might, his hunting trophies, his previous conquests, both military and romantic. He spoke of Lyria like she was another trophy to collect. Once we are married, things will change around here, Kelvin announced. Too soft, this palace. Too many weak policies. My empire understands strength. Soon yours will too. My empire is not weak, Lyria said quietly. Of course not, my dear. I meant no offense. But surely you see the value of a firm hand? The Zephyrian people need guidance. Strong guidance. Which I will provide after breakfast. Jake couldn't stay silent. He found Lyria in one of the smaller meeting rooms, alone for a rare moment. Tell me you're not actually going to marry that guy? Lyria looked up, startled. Lieutenant Morrison. You shouldn't be here. Answer the question. Please, he is my fiancé. The wedding is arranged. It will prevent war between our empires. He's a bully and a tyrant. You heard how he talked about your people. About you. He doesn't love you. He wants to own you. Love is not required in royal marriage. But Lyria's voice wavered. Maybe it should be. Jake moved closer. You deserve better. You deserve someone who sees how amazing you are. Someone who loves your mind and your kindness and your strength. Someone like you? Lyria's golden eyes met his. Is that what you're saying? Jake stopped. Was he? Yes, God help him, yes. What if I am? Then you're a fool. But Lyria was crying now, tears streaming down her blue face. Don't you understand? There is no future for us. Even if I wanted one, which I can't afford to want, it would be impossible. I am a princess. You are a human. My people would never accept it. Your people would never accept it. The council would never accept. I don't care what they accept while I do. I have to, because millions of lives depend on my choices. If I break this engagement, Kelvin's father will declare war. Thousands will die. Planets will burn. All because I wanted to be selfish. Because I wanted, she stopped herself, wanted what Jake took her hands. All four of them, say it you? I wanted you, Lyria sobbed. I wanted to know what it feels like to choose. To love someone I actually care about. To wake up next to someone who sees me, not just the crown. I wanted the impossible. Jake pulled her close. She came willingly, resting her head against his chest. They stood like that for a moment. Two people from different worlds holding on to something that couldn't exist. Sorry, Jake whispered. I shouldn't have said anything. I'm making this harder. No. I'm glad you did. I needed to hear that someone sees me. Really sees me. Lyria pulled back and wiped her eyes. But we can't do this again. After the betrothal ceremony, you should return to your ship. The repairs are almost complete. You should go home, Jake Morrison. Forget about May. Don't think I can do that then. Try, please. For both our sakes. Lyria straightened her robes and her crown. The princess returned, pushing away the woman goodbye. Lieutenant, she left before Jake could respond. He stood alone, his heart breaking in a way he didn't know was possible for an alien. He had met just a few weeks ago. The betrothal ceremony happened 3 days lot. Jake didn't leave? Commander Park was furious. What do you mean you're staying? Morrison, we have orders. We're going back to Earth. I'm requesting a transfer. To the embassy staff here. Jake had filed the paperwork that morning. They need security personnel? I'm volunteering. This is about her, isn't it? The princess. Commander Park's voice softened. Jake, I get it. She's special. But she's engaged. She's royalty. This is a dead end. Maybe, but I have to try. I can't just walk away. Commander Park studied his face for a long moment. Then she sighed. You're sure about this? Because once I leave, you're on your own. Earth is weeks away. If things go bad, I know the risks. All right. I'll approve the transfer. But Jake, be careful. Palace politics are dangerous. One wrong move and you could start a war. I'll be careful. But being careful became impossible 2 days later. Jake was helping with security at a state dinner. Delegates from across the galaxy attended to celebrate the upcoming royal wedding. The main hall glittered with lights and jewels. Music played. People danced and talked and ate exotic food. Jake stood near the wall watching. Lyria sat at the high table with Kelvin beside her. The prince had his hand on her wrist, right over the betrothal bond. A possessive gesture. Lyria's smile looked frozen on her face. Kelvin laughed loudly at something another delegate said. His voice carried across the hall. Yes, after the wedding, many things will change. The Zephyrian military will be absorbed into my own. More efficient that way. And their council? Well, advisors who disagree with their king have a tendency to retire, suddenly. A few people laughed nervously. Lyria's face went pale. Jake's hands clenched. This wasn't a marriage. It was a takeover. Kelvin wasn't just marrying Lyria. He was planning to conquer her empire from the inside. He had to tell someone. Jake moved toward where Chancellor Vorath stood. But before he could reach him, the lights went out. Screams erupted in the darkness. Energy weapons fired, their bolts lighting up the hall in flashes of blue and green. Jake's training kicked in. He pulled his sidearm and moved toward the high table. Toward Lyria, more shots. An explosion rocked the far wall. People ran in panic, pushing and shoving. In the chaos, Jake saw figures in black armor moving with purpose. Not random attackers. Trained soldiers. Protect the princes! Vorath's voice rose above the chaos. Jake fought through the crowd. A black-armored soldier blocked his path. They exchanged fire. Jake's shot hit the soldier's shoulder. The soldier went down. Jake kept moving. He reached the high table. Kelvin was gone, fled to safety with his own guards, cowered, but Lyria was still there, surrounded by 3 attackers. Her guards lay dead at her feet. She fought with a blade in each of her 4 hands, moving like a dancer. Beautiful and deadly, but she was outnumbered. One attacker got through her defense, his blade slicing across her arm. Purple blood splashed. Jake shot him. Then the next. Then the third. All 3 went down. Lyria spun toward him, blade raised. Then she saw who it was. "Jake, are you hurt?" "My arm, it's not serious." But she was bleeding badly. "Thank you. You saved my life. Again, that's becoming a habit." Jake tore fabric from his uniform and wrapped her arm. "We need to get you out of here." "Come on." He led her through a side passage, away from the fighting. Emergency lights flickered on, casting red shadows. Behind them, they could hear shouts and weapons fire. The attack was coordinated, professional. "This wasn't random," Jake said as they ran. "Those were trained soldiers. Someone planned this." "I know. And I think I know who—" Lyria stumbled. Jake caught her. She was weaker than she let on. "Kelvin's father. The Sarthian king. He wants to make it look like Zalara Prime is unstable, dangerous, so that after the wedding, when Kelvin takes control, it will seem like he's bringing order. That's insane." "That's politics." Lyria's voice was bitter. "Create the problem, then offer yourself as the solution. My people will be so grateful to be saved, they won't notice they've lost their freedom." They reached a secure room. Jake locked the door and helped Lyria sit. Her wound needed proper medical attention, but for now, the bleeding had slowed. "You need to expose him," Jake said. "Tell the council." "Tell your people with what proof?" "It's just my suspicion. And even if I had proof, do you think the council would care? They want this marriage. It means peace. They'll accept Kelvin's takeover if it means no war. Then don't marry him." Lyria laughed, but there was no humor in it. "And start a war? Watch my people die because I was selfish." "It's not selfish to refuse a tyrant, spoken like a human." But Lyria's eyes were sad. "You still don't understand. I'm not just a person. I'm a symbol. A tool. My personal happiness means nothing compared to the Empire." Jake knelt in front of her, taking her hands. "It should mean something. You should mean something. Not just the crown, you keep saying that. But what would you have me do? Run away with you? Abandon my people? No, stand up for them. Show them you're strong enough to say no to Kelvin. Strong enough to lead on your own terms." "I'm not strong enough." "Yes, you are. I've seen it. You're the strongest person I know." Lyria's eyes filled with tears. "Why do you believe in me so much?" "Because I love you." The words hung in the air between them. Jake hadn't meant to say them. But now that he had, he couldn't take them back. Didn't want to take them back. "You can't love me," Lyria whispered. "We're from different worlds. Different species. It's impossible." "I don't care." "I love you anyway. And I think you love me too. It doesn't matter what I feel. Even if I love you, even if you love me, there's no future for us. The council would never accept a human consort. My people would never accept." The door exploded inward. Kelvin stood there with a dozen guards. His face was twisted with rage. "So it's true? My spies said they saw you running off with the human. I didn't believe it. My own betrothed, sneaking away with an alien soldier." "Kelvin, it's not what you think." Lyria started to stand. "Silence!" Kelvin's shout made her flinch. "I've been patient with your little friendship. I allowed it because I thought it was harmless, but this? This is betrayal. We were escaping the attack," Jake said calmly. "Protecting the princess is my job. Your job?" Kelvin laughed. "Your job is to stay away from what's mine. And she's mine." The betrothal bond proves I've grabbed Lyria's wrist, twisting it to show the ceremonial band. She cried out in pain. Her wounded arm bled. Fresh. Jake moved without thinking. He punched Kelvin square in the jaw. The prince stumbled backward, shocked. His guards raised their weapons. "Stand down." Vorath appeared behind Kelvin's guards. He had his own soldiers with him. Everyone lower your weapons. Now tense silence. Slowly, weapons lowered. Kelvin touched his jaw, which was already bruising. That human struck me. A prince of the Sarthian Dominion? This is an act of war. You were hurting Princess Lyria, Jake said. I'd do it again. Jake, don't. Lyria tried to intervene. No. Jake stepped forward. I'm done being quiet. You want to blame someone? Blame me. I'm the one who fell in love with her. I'm the one who convinced her she deserved better than you. I'm the one who kissed her. It's all me. The room went silent. Everyone stared. Lyria's face was white. Kelvin's eyes narrowed. You admit to seducing my betrothed? I admit to loving her. And she deserves to be loved. Not controlled. Not owned. Loved. This is treason. Kelvin turned to Vorath. I demand this human be executed. Immediately, you have no authority to demand anything here, Vorath said coldly. This is Zalara Prime, not your empire. Yet, Kelvin smiled. Oh, I think you'll find I have more authority than you realize. After all, any insult to me is an insult to my father. And my father has a very large army. What do you think he'll do when he hears about this? When he learns his son's betrothed has been sleeping with an alien he haven't been sleeping with anyone. Lyria's voice was strong now, angry. Jake speaks the truth. He loves me. And I love him. But we have never betrayed the betrothal. We have never dishonored anyone. The only person dishonoring themselves here is you, Kelvin. With your threats and your schemes and your plans to conquer my empire, you have no proof of fattent. Illyria stood tall, despite her wound. I have recordings of tonight's attack. Security footage showing your soldiers among the attackers. I have communication intercepts proving your father ordered this. I was going to stay silent. Going to marry you anyway, for peace. But I'm done being silent. Kelvin's face turned dark purple. You wouldn't dare expose that. It would mean Warthen let there be war. Lyria removed the betrothal bond from her wrist and threw it at Kelvin's feet. I will not marry you. I will not let you destroy my empire. And I will not spend my life with someone who sees me as property. The room erupted. Guards shouted. Kelvin lunged forward. But Vorath's soldiers stopped him. You'll regret this, Kelvin snarled at Lyria. My father will crush your pathetic empire. He'll burn your cities, kill your people, and it will be your fault. Because you chose an alien over duty, I chose freedom over slavery. Lyria's voice was steel. If your father attacks, we will defend ourselves. And we won't be alone. She looked at Jake. He understood. I'll contact Earth. We'll send help. Other species will join us too, once they hear what you've been planning. Humans. Kelvin laughed. The galaxy hates humans. No one will help youth. Galaxy fears humans. Jake corrected. There's a difference. And when humans fight for something they believe in, they don't lose. Kelvin spat at Jake's feet. This isn't... The Sarthian fleet arrived 5 days later. 200 warships darkened the sky above Zalara Prime. They hung there like a threat, blocking out the sun. Jake stood in the war room with Lyria, Vorath, and a dozen military commanders. Holographic displays showed the enemy positions. The numbers weren't good. They have us outnumbered 4-1, Vorath said grimly. Even with the human reinforcements, we're facing impossible odds. Where are the humans? One commander asked. 2 days out, Jake reported. Earth sent everything they could spare. 20 ships, it's not much, but human vessels pack a punch. 20 ships against 200? The commander shook his head. We should surrender, at least save lives. No. Lyria's voice was firm. We fight. Kelvin's father wants to make an example of us. If we surrender, he'll still destroy us. At least this way, we die free. Your Highness, perhaps if you reconsidered the betrothal, another commander began. I will not sell myself to a tyrant. Lyria slammed one hand on the table. Would you? Would any of you trade your freedom for temporary safety? That's not safety. That's slavery. The room fell silent. No one had an answer. A communication officer rushed in. Your Highness, we're receiving a transmission from the Sarthian flagship, King Varan himself. Put him through. A hologram appeared. King Varan looked like an older, crueler version of his son. His eyes were cold gold. His smile was a predator's smile. Princess Lyria, how disappointing to meet under these circumstances. My son speaks highly of you. Well, he used to. King Varan, your son is a liar and a coward. And you're a tyrant. I have nothing to say to you. Varan's smile widened. Oh, but I have much to say to you. You've made a terrible mistake, child. Breaking the betrothal, choosing an alien over my son. These insults cannot stand. Then leave. Go home. There's no need for bloodshed. But there is. You see, I can't have other worlds thinking they can refuse me. You'll be my example. Surrender now, and I'll only execute your leadership. Refuse, and I'll burn your entire planet. We won't surrender. Not even to save your people? Varan's eyes glittered. What about to save your little human lover? I have a proposition. Send Lieutenant Morrison to me. Let me execute him publicly. Do that, and I'll spare your planet. My fleet will leave. Jake's blood went cold. Lyria's face went pale. No, she said immediately. Think carefully, Varan continued. One life for billions. The human for your world, it's a fair trade. You have 1 hour to decide. The hologram vanished. The war room erupted in argument. Some commanders thought they should accept. Others refused. Voices rose and overlapped. Lyria held up her hands for silence. When she spoke, her voice shook. Everyone out. Except Jake. I need to speak with him alone. The room emptied. Only Jake and Lyria remained, surrounded by holographic displays of the enemy fleet. Don't, Jake said before she could speak. Don't even think it. I have to think it. One life for billions. It's basic math. Tears ran down Lyria's face. How can I not consider it? Because it's a lie. Varan won't leave even if you give him me. He wants your empire. He'll use my execution to humiliate you, then attack anyway. This is a test to see if you'll break. You don't know that. Yes, I do. I've studied Earth's history. Tyrants always lie. Always. You can't negotiate with them. You can only stand up to them or submit. There's no middle ground. Lyria covered her face with her 4 hands. I don't know what to do. I've never led during war. I'm not strong enough for this. Jake pulled her hands away gently. Yes, you are. You broke an engagement to save your empire. You stood up to Kelvin. You chose freedom. That takes more strength than any battle, but I'm scared so, and my fear doesn't make you weak. It makes you smart. Jake held her close. Whatever happens, we face it together. Remember, together, Lyria whispered. Then she straightened. I need to address my people. Will you stand with me always? They walked to the public broadcast chamber. It was watched by billions across Solara Prime and neighboring worlds. Lyria looked at the camera. Her crown caught the light. But her eyes showed her fear, her determination, her hope. People of Solara Prime, you know why the Sarthian fleet has come. They claim we insulted them by breaking a betrothal, but the truth is different. Prince Kelvin and his father planned to conquer us, to destroy our freedom, to make us slaves in all but name. She paused, gathering strength. I will not let that happen. I will not trade my freedom or yours for false promises of peace. King Varan has demanded I sacrifice Lieutenant Jake Morrison to save our world. I refuse, not because one human life matters more than billions, but because if we start sacrificing people to tyrants, where does it stop? How many must we give before they're satisfied? The answer is all of us. They'll take everything until nothing remains. Lyria's voice grew stronger. So I ask you to stand with me. To fight for our right to exist? To choose our own future? Yes, we may die. But we'll die as free people. And I believe that's worth dying for. She removed her crown and set it down. I don't speak to you now as your princess. I speak as someone who loves this world and everyone on it. Help me defend it. Not because I command you, but because you believe it's right. The broadcast ended. For a moment, silence. Then Jake's communicator buzzed, and Vorath's, and every device. In the room, messages poured in from across the planet. From soldiers volunteering to fight, from civilians offering supplies, from engineers with ideas for defense, from children sending drawings of hope. Thousands of messages. Then hundreds of thousands. Then millions. They're with you, Jake said, reading the messages. All of them. Lyria picked up her crown and placed it back on her head. Then we fight. Chancellor Vorath, prepare all defenses. Evacuate non-combatants to the deep shelters. Power up every weapon we have. Yes, Your Highness. And Jake? Lyria turned to him. I need you to do something impossible. Name it. When the human fleet arrives, I need you to convince them to do something crazy. Something desperate. Something very human. Jake smiled. I'm listening. 2 days later, the human fleet emerged from jump space. 20 ships against 200. The Sarthian fleet laughed at them. King Varan sent a mocking message. 20 ships? This is what humanity offers? You should have stayed home, humans. This won't even be a fight. Admiral Kate Murphy commanded the human fleet. She was 50 years old, gray-haired, and known for never backing down. Her response was short. We didn't come to fight fair. We came to win the battle. Began. The Sarthian fleet advanced confidently. They outnumbered the defenders massively. Victory seemed certain. But they had never fought humans before? They didn't understand what made humans dangerous. The human ships moved in patterns that seemed random but were carefully calculated. They drew fire, then dodged at the last second. They targeted weak points in enemy formations. They took insane risks that no other species would attempt, and they never gave up. One human destroyer, damaged and burning, rammed a Sarthian battleship rather than retreat. The collision destroyed both ships but opened a hole in the enemy line. Zephyrian fighters poured through. Another human captain, surrounded by 5 enemy vessels, overloaded his reactor and jumped directly into the middle of the enemy formation. The explosion took out all 5 ships. The Sarthian fleet began to falter. They had numerical advantage, but they were fighting an enemy that valued courage over caution. An enemy that turned every defeat into a weapon on the ground. Jake coordinated defense with Lyria. They had a plan, but it required perfect timing. If they moved too early, it would fail. Too late, and they'd all die. Now, Lyria asked, watching the battle displays. Not yet. Wait for it. Jake tracked the enemy flagship's position. Varan commanded from there, directing his fleet. If they could take him out, the Sarthian attack would crumble. Now every weapon on Zalara Prime fired at once. Not at the fleet. At a single point in space above the planet, thousands of energy beams converged. They created a massive explosion that lit up the sky. The Sarthian fleet thought the planet was attacking them. They turned their attention downward, away from the human ships. Just for a moment, that moment was enough. The human fleet struck. They targeted the flagship with everything they had. Admiral Murphy's own ship, heavily damaged, made a final run. Her weapons blazed. Her ship shook. Then she fired her main cannon at point-blank range. The flagship's shields failed. The shot punched through its hull. Secondary explosions rippled across the massive vessel. All ships, retreat. King Varan's voice crackled over open channels. Retreat, but the human fleet didn't let them retreat easily. They harried the Sarthian ships as they fled. Destroyed engines, disabled weapons, made them pay for every meter of space. By the time it was over, the Sarthian fleet had lost 90 ships. The rest limped away toward their home territory. The human fleet had lost 16 of its 20 vessels. But they had won on Zalara Prime. People poured into the streets. They cheered. They cried. They celebrated their impossible victory in the palace. Lyria collapsed into a chair. The battle was over, but she shook with exhaustion and relief. Jake sat beside her, just as tired. We did it, she whispered. We actually did it. You did it. You inspired them, made them believe. Jake took her hand. You're a real leader now, not because of your crown. Because of who you are. I couldn't have done it without you. Without humans. You saved us, we saved each other. The door opened. Vorath entered with news. Your Highness, messages are coming in from across the gal.